apologize in advance. I may be a little salty this week.
Salty? A little
Yes.
saltines?
A little salty. I may be a little. No, the weirdest thing happened. One of the joys of getting old is that things happen to you, and then you look them up on the internet, and you're like, "Oh, I'd never heard about that before," because it wasn't in like a movie or a TV show. Yesterday, I woke up. Everything tastes like salt.
What?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like
salts.
Yep. Like if I put my tongue on like a piece of paper, it tastes like salt. Everything has a salty taste right now, and so I might be a little bit of a salty guy.
Okay.
It's one of those, but it's also one of those things eventually when you get old where you're just like, you look it up online and it's like, well, have you tried waiting for 4 days to see if it just goes away on its own? Because that could be the solution.
That's like they're gonna say reboot yourself or
Right.
like reseat your own cable. It's like, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do?
Take your tongue out and then reseat it and reboot, and you should be good. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to the RageSelect podcast. Here on RageSelect, I'm Jeff.
I'm Blake.
Blake, I apologize in advance. There's not much news. For some reason, it used to be that every week there was banger news, and I think that like part of it was the fact that while Microsoft was trying to buy Activision Blizzard, it was just like every week we had something about that. There were dumpster fires left and right. Now we're kind of like, I don't know, there's just a bunch of good games coming out, and like not a lot. So
we're definitely at a very there have been a lot of games coming out. Like Baldur's Gate came out, Diablo 5 came out.
4.
5 will come, trust me. But yeah, sorry. Diablo 4 came out. There's also Payday 3 is coming out soon as well, which I'm excited about. And Starfield came
are you excited about that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then you got to be on when we do that, because I don't know anybody else that's excited for
the reason why I'm excited about it is that somebody else that I actually play video games with on our Discord is excited about it. And I'm like, sure, a game to play with people. This is fun.
Yeah.
I get really, really stuck into like these one-player annoyance, like play Madden, play FIFA, don't play with other people.
Right.
Like, I love that experience. So Baldur's Gate's been a fun time. Diablo 4 has been a fun time. So yeah, I'm excited about Payday 3.
Yeah. Well, sorry, my brain was rebooting there. I guess I set the signal.
Reseat your cable.
Yes,
Reseat
exactly.
the tongue.
I just need to reseat my entire life. Can I just unplug my life and then plug it back in? I think that might be what's necessary at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of news, but all of it's weird. I don't know. We'll get to that. I said I was going to stop doing that. I need to stop doing that. But before we get to the news, I gotta have something to put in the thumbnail, Blake. So,
Ooh.
you been up to anything recently? You been watching something? You been playing something?
Yes.
Been doing something?
Many things speeding up on the anime side. I'm up to date on One Piece in the manga.
Okay.
I probably won't be like going hardcore into the watching all of the anime episodes, and I have finished the Netflix. I believe it's a 8-episode series.
See, I thought about watching the Netflix show. Somebody in my Discord was saying you should go watch the Netflix show, and I was like, but they're releasing those at a rate of like 8 episodes every 2 years, man.
Every arc is about 2 episodes, so
Right.
They've gone through the first like 39 chapters, I think, in this Netflix series. But
Okay.
having said all that, the Netflix show has a lot of like people that are like, I don't know, I don't know. I'm one of those.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's a ridiculous fucking story. So they did a pretty good job of it. I think many people that don't want to sit through the hours of the manga or sit hours through the anime as well are going to actually find themselves pleasantly enjoying a story where they can quickly get through it.
Okay.
So I see a interesting niche for this. However, I don't know if it's a children audience. Like that show is so weird that I can't see like my nephew sitting down and going, "Oh, this is cool." Like
Yeah.
it's very, very bizarre. But yeah, no, I liked it.
I've never been entirely certain about the purpose of. I've talked about this before. I've never been entirely certain about the purpose of like, let's take a cartoon and make it into a live action thing.
It definitely doesn't seem like it transitions well, even in the video game medium specifically, and in the anime. Obviously, with the Netflix side, with your Cowboy Bebop attempts, as well as there was another one I think they did as well.
There's been a lot of them.
This one feels different. It doesn't feel like it's as bad as Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
It just feels like, why the hell was this made? It does seem like it has a purpose, and the casting's done really well. I hate the Netflix gate. The way they film their shows, oh my God, it bothers me. I'm like, I don't want to watch a soap opera. Like, I'd prefer to watch a show that looks like a show with a cinematic gate that doesn't show me like a crazy frame rate and doesn't seem like it's just I don't know. I don't want to be there. I just want to watch it. So did that. I also watched and read up on Chainsaw Man as the other.
Okay,
anime.
now hey, I've seen Chainsaw Man.
There you go.
Chainsaw Man rule. I actually, it was funny because I almost stopped watching Chainsaw Man because in the first 3 or 4 episodes, it's kind of a misery parade.
It's a fucking mess, dude.
Especially, I'm like, okay, specifically the one where the lady pukes in his mouth. Like, I was like, I don't know if this is my show. I like the action parts, but the parts where we're not in action.
I can't wait for this Netflix live series. Yes. You know what I mean?
There's like, what's her face? Power? Is that the
Power?
She's so mean.
Have you read the manga?
No.
Okay. So
I just watched the show.
There was a moment where we were talking about a while ago in another episode. I think we were like outside. We were talking about Attack on Titan and how it does an interesting twist, which I'm not aware of.
Sure.
I know that there's some interesting plot development. Chainsaw Man does something very similar.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you, as I think there's like one episode I haven't watched of the anime, but I've gone up to date now on the manga. Crazy shit. It gets crazier. And I'm not sure I'm enjoying it as much as I am at the beginning, but it's still interesting. You know what I mean? So I would be curious to see your 2 cents if you get to the anime and that comes out, or if you can get to the manga. It's interesting.
Well, if you've got a pause from everything that you've said that you like, may I recommend to you Jujutsu Kaisen?
Okay,
to jump on.
I'm
next?
looking for the next jump.
Jujutsu Kaisen. I can't get anybody else to watch it. I would say that and Demon Slayer are both fucking tippity top.
I was going to do that as well as Berserk. I believe you also recommended, or
no, that wasn't me.
That was okay. No,
everybody else on the internet will recommend Berserk to you. I did read all the manga of Berserk, and eventually I got bored of Berserk, and I was like, everybody talks about the first half, I guess, 50% of Berserk, where it's like the Golden Age arc, and then everything gets fucked up arc. But then I kept reading after that, and I was like, and then
I feel like were we on an episode where we were talking, probably the last podcast episode that we did in terms of like the actual podcast show.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like something about a fighter, and then like there was some like convicts that escaped into Tokyo.
Oh, that was Baki.
Baki
Hanma.
Yeah. I need to check that out too.
Yeah,
that looked really interesting. So sorry, no Berserk. Fuck that. Talking about Baki.
Yeah,
that's what I'm into.
Actually, what I found out was that it turns out that I only watched the first half of that season of Baki, and there was a whole second half that I haven't gotten around to yet.
All right, so I got some things, but also Gundam. I'm coming back to you. I swear. I swear I'll get there.
Well, last week I got a chance to watch. It was such a fast turnaround. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem.
Oh, I've also seen that. Yes.
It was really delightful. It was like, I'm not the biggest. Well, the thing is, I watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show back in the 80s, and then I read the Eastman and Laird comics. But then, like, there's been like 16 reboots since then, and I kind of had this policy of being like, I'm not into just shoving my childhood into a meat grinder so I can have new content.
Ooh, new toys. Ooh, new games.
Right. I want new weird shit, which is why I watch so much anime, because it's like, what if a vending machine was the main character? And I'm like, yeah, man, sign me
inject
up.
that shit into my veins. Let's go. Brave little toaster. Let's do it.
I really liked it, though. I really liked it. I like the fact that the turtles themselves skewed younger, and so they came off as more teenage. Like I was talking about how I think back on the original show, and like they may have acted like teenagers, but they were jacked, right? Like in the 80s show, they were always like these big,
very different vibe between the turtles and the show that I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah,
which was the OG one, and the new one. Completely different vibe between the turtles.
Yes,
like, you know what I mean. And I appreciated both sides, but I think I don't know. There was a lot of heartfelt and a lot of kid-like interaction between the teenagers, and the way that they've also interacted with those kids. I've kind of seen some of the back end too of like what they were doing on how they like. Usually when you do audio clips between people, you don't put them in the same room.
Right.
They did. They're like, let's put the kids in a room, let's record them like just joking around and stuff, and let's see if we can use any of it.
Yep.
And they it came through.
I really like the art style. Like I've seen I think when I first saw the trailers for it, I was afraid that it was going to look too much like Spider-Verse, but it was like I liked how rough it was in comparison.
How was it close to the comics? Because I've never read the comic books.
Nothing like the comics.
Okay. Is the comics more like violent or something?
Yes.
Or
as was pointed out to me at some point, and I don't know why I didn't make this connection, but Michael pointed this out to me. The original Ninja Turtles were Eastman and Laird doing. It was one of those things that happened a lot of times in like the 80s and 90s, whereas they basically, or part of it at least, was that they were doing a Daredevil parody.
Because
Because you've
that
got
makes sense.
Daredevil's master is Stick. The Turtles are trained by Splinter. Daredevil fights the hand. The Ninja Turtles fight the foot.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on there. The thing is, I always told the story about how I watched the '80s show, and then for some reason they had the black and white trade paperbacks. They sold them at the book fair at my school, like when I was in middle school.
Oh, the Scholastic Book Fair.
And I was like looking through, and I was like, "Oh, the fucking Ninja Turtles!" And then you watch, well, why are their headbands all the same color? Because in the comics they were all just red, and they were wearing like bike pads and stuff. It wasn't like this,
It wasn't color coordinated.
Yeah, and so like I got the first one, which I don't remember that much of, but then I got the fourth one, which it was there was a stretch where it was like that one was a story where Shredder just shows up and kicks everyone's ass. Like like the Foot just show up and beat the Turtles nearly to death, and they just barely manage to get away. And then a lot of that comic is they go to like a farm to recuperate. They go to like April's uncle's farm.
I'm seeing a lot of similarities. Potentially, was it the first one that they went to a farm?
I don't know.
And then they were, I think, in the movie.
Yeah.
I think they went to a farm one in the movie, and it was just like, whoa.
Yeah. I think that's a reference to that. But then, like the third one, they travel through time or to dimensions.
Oh my god!
And there's
the
like
third movie? Oh
no,
my.
not the third movie, but the third trade paperback.
Okay.
And there's like this huge booby time lady and these Triceratops guys, and like it's a much different vibe in the comic.
Yeah, it does sound like a different vibe. Whoa.
In the show. So, yeah, but I thoroughly recommend it. I think that right now they put the new movies on Paramount Plus, I think.
Yes, it definitely hit VOD recently.
But it's definitely I think I enjoyed it more than Spider-Verse because Spider-Verse was like a setup for a conclusion, whereas this was like a whole
So you're saying you liked it better than the second Spider-Verse? What about the first Spider-Verse?
Not the first one.
Okay,
No,
got it.
The second one. Like I think that I really liked the Puss in Boots movie that came out. I don't think it was quite as good as that, but it was fun. It was a real good fun time. It was like an hour and 40 minutes, which is great.
I love that solid 90 minutes, man.
I don't want these fucking 2.5 hour movies. Everything's
don't
gonna be
need that in
2.5
my
hours.
life. I don't need that in my life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The story should be. If you can't tell a story in 90 minutes, I'm looking at you, James Cameron. Then don't fucking tell a story.
Yeah, 90 minutes. That's like 4 beers, and then I got like 2 more. I could watch some other stuff.
I'd rather watch Avatar in 90-minute segments and just have like 15 Avatar movies. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it. It's better that way.
Yeah.
I can leave it earlier.
I'm dreading. It's like I'm kind of want to watch Oppenheimer, but on the other hand, I'm like kind of sick of Christopher Nolan and his shit.
Perfect movie for me to watch on my phone because fuck Christopher Nolan. Sounds like a perfect movie I'm gonna watch on my phone.
I do it specifically on a summer day, standing outside on my phone, like with really like 49 cent Wish.com headphones in to hear all the.
I watched Tenet in a drive-in during COVID, and I was like, fuck you, Nolan.
You don't get to tell me how to watch your fucking movies. I'll watch your movies however the fuck I want.
Batman was over. It was fine. It's not overrated. The Batman's good.
I tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'm really getting my salty Texas is coming out here. Tenet. I was pissed off at his comments about that with Tenet.
Tenet is a stupid movie, by the way.
But the one that really pissed me off was the fucking Irishman, because when I got around to watching the Irishman, I was like, I could watch this on a 4x3 fucking television.
But the Irishman, that's Scorsese.
Yeah, I know, but he was also one of these you got to go watch it in the theater. You don't want to watch. These kids want to watch movies on their phones, and I'm like, you can eat my dick, Scorsese. I will watch this wherever I want to, however I want to.
I'm so hard into like the fuck Nolan thing, but then Scorsese, I'm like, yeah, but it's Scorsese. I mean, just give him Scorsese. Scorsese, I'm not going to the theater to watch your fucking movie. You put it on Netflix, I'm gonna watch it at home.
God, fucking Irishman. That's so boring. It's so boring. But anyway, I don't want to get the internet. It's already got like 10 people just turn this show off.
Robert De Niro is having a very hard time with his CGI arm right now.
Yes.
Responding.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I tell you what. the news is weird. Let's talk about it. Our first segment this week is basically what I like to call Starfield potpourri.
Okay.
Because there's no big controversy or stories or anything. This is just a bunch of fun shit about Starfield.
Let's scour the internet for Starfield headlines.
I what happens when I get these shows ready is I open up all these news tabs. So I'll have a browser window with like 150 tabs open, and then I try to arrange them. I kept looking through. It's like, okay, what's the best story from this week? And I'm like, none. But I've got like 12 Starfield. I keep wanting to say Skyrim. 12 Starfield stories. In fact, one of the websites that I use to look up the news, VG247, it's like I was scrolling through there. I'm like, every story for 4 days is a Starfield story. Like every single one of them. And none of them are of any consequence. So anyway, the first one here, let's tell a heartwarming story. In California, there was a guy. He was a big old fan of Starfield. He bought the collector's edition so he could play early. He was sitting there. He was waiting for it to unlock. It unlocked. He booted it up. Started playing Starfield. He was doing his marathon. His wife was asleep. His kid was asleep. Heard an explosion. And apparently his downstairs neighbor's apartment, like, just caught on fucking fire. And because he was awake and playing Starfield, he was awake enough to grab his family and just fucking bail out of their place at a moment's notice. And so he is now crediting Starfield with saving the lives of him and his family.
Did it happen because of a Fallout neon sign?
Oh, no.
I was going to say, like, that is ironic as all hell.
No.
I was like, 76 strikes again.
But yeah, but the other thing is, I don't know, this is weird because this is an apartment.
It looks like a cleared apartment. Yeah.
But it's like a converted motel, right? It looks like a motel.
It looks like you ever see the movie The Karate Kid? This kind of looks like where that kid lived. There's a pool in the middle, probably.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, so Starfield saving lives by being incredibly
I
slow.
thought this story, because I haven't played Starfield yet, but I thought this story was going to be like Starfield taught him how to like douse a fire.
No, Starfield doesn't teach you how to do.
All that he did was Starfield saved my life because I was up not having any responsibilities besides playing video games.
Yep.
And then it saved my family because, you can't criticize me now, wife.
Yep. He's going to be milking that for the rest of his life. I'm just like,
I'm sorry, sweetie, I have to save our family again.
I have to stay vigilant, you know?
When you watch a Netflix movie, that's not vigilant enough.
I'm sorry. I got to be playing. I got to get ready. I got to get the adrenaline
we could go to
pumping.
space one day and there could be another fire.
Yeah.
That's cool. Good for that guy. Good for that guy's family.
Yeah.
I think somebody died, though. That's sad.
It was one person. It wasn't that family, but one other person did. So
that person should
probably the person
Starfield.
below.
They're probably playing Starfield. Okay, sorry.
We should leave. No, I can't leave.
They were in the same party, unfortunately.
I waited for too long to play this game. Let's see. Next up, Todd Howard's out there giving interviews, talking about shit. There was another story that came out this week where he basically just said, hey, is it not running well on your PC? Well, you should probably upgrade your PC.
Oh,
because
what a
it's
dick.
not very
I saw
good.
that. It's like, well, how do you upgrade from an RTX 4080 or some shit? You know what I mean? It's like, why is this shit like that?
Yeah.
There's a whole thing right now with 4K in games. I think most of it, you don't fucking need it. Like, does every game have to have 4K? Because we're certainly looking right now at 100 gig games, and there should be like 20.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
there are some games that call for it. I understand that.
I agree. No, I agree with you. However, I've spent enough time around PC gaming subreddits that I'm like, no, you're thinking about this all wrong. It doesn't matter whether we need; it's whether we can.
Okay,
I demand it.
I demand more toys.
Yes, and I'll say that I installed Starfield on my PC, and I have an okay. I mean, probably better.
You
than
have
okay.
an okay experience.
Well,
Jeff, your setup is fucking god tier. I think most middle school kids would be like fucking heaven over here.
No,
like.
see, the thing is, I'm only on the 30 series. I'm only on a 3060, so I would need
the smugness with that right there.
I actually went online to look at how much a 4090 costs, and it was like $1,500. And I was like, no, I refuse to spend as much as all of my consoles put together.
But this is what he's indicating is you need a better PC than that. You can't.
Well, see, the thing is, okay, part of this whole thing about Starfield that I feel like needs to be said out loud is that you nerds, not the people listening to this, because you guys are all cool, but you nerds on the internet that are complaining about this don't remember anything that has ever happened in the history of mankind. Because you remember when Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out and how it ran like ass everywhere, and then 4 years later when all the PCs were like 30% more powerful, it was able to run great. When Skyrim came out, I had a PlayStation 3 when Skyrim came out. That motherfucker, it kept expanding the size of the save file until it would get to a point where you just couldn't load the game anymore. It was slow. It took forever to load. It was not optimized in the least. My PC couldn't run it. Now, Skyrim is like a decade old, so now my PC runs it great. Like, it turns out that if you just...
How many mods you got on that, though?
None.
I was like, Bethesda isn't great at making for, you know what I mean? Like, that's probably bottom tier of like optimal performance of gaming, right? Like,
yes.
Like, they're just gonna like cut corners all the time. Now, I haven't played Starfield, but when he said that, it seemed like some of the outrage, as you're indicating, for some of the nerds, not the people listening, the nerds out there, were just like, dude, no, like a mid-tier PC should be able to run something at an optimal level, but if you have a high-tier PC and still that's not good enough, that's a little like, I just won't play your game then. It's like Crysis, right? When Crysis 2 came out, everybody was...
Yeah, I think... So the thing is that I think that most systems can run it at 1080p 30 frames per second. Like,
okay.
I think that what you're looking at here is like, why can't my system run it at 1440 Ultra 120 frames per second, like day one? And it's like, I just don't think that unless you're running some kind of water-cooled monstrosity like that, because I've been playing it on the Xbox where it's capped at 30 frames per second.
You're actually using the Xbox then?
Yeah, well, I decided to stop playing, and so I put it back up again, but it's a whole fucking thing. But
not on Game Pass though, right?
No, it's on Game Pass.
Oh, it is. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's on Game Pass.
Cool.
Because I installed it on my PC. It didn't run smooth enough to basically. I've got too many 120 gigabyte games installed on my PC.
Darn.
And I was like, I don't want to have to keep moving Elden Ring off my primary drive to put Starfield on my primary drive to get the load times
now,
to go.
If that's not a gamer problem, that is not, I mean,
yeah,
you got to have your Elden Ring.
Yes. But I think that a lot of people, this is such a digression, it has absolutely nothing to do with the next story that I had on my list, but I think that we are going to be, eventually we are going to be working with hardware that runs Starfield like a dream. And that I think that by making kind of the minimum requirement, like the upper edge of what's available, that it does kind of future-proof their games a little bit. It gives them more legs, because I don't know about you, and I don't even know if this is a thing that still happens anymore, but like for me, one of the things that I loved more than anything was like, if I got a new console, if I got a new computer, if I got a new video card, would be to go get Starfield loaded up and be like, oh, how fast does it run now with this new thing that I just like, it's my benchmark. And then I would load it up and be like, oh shit, it runs like a dream. I'm going to play the fuck out of Starfield. So anyway, but the news story that I had up here was in an interview, old Toddy How was talking about how not putting, like, by canceling the PlayStation version of the game, that it actually really accelerated the development and like streamlined the development, because the number of places that they had to do testing for and programming for was so much smaller.
And when made for comment, Sony said, I'm sorry, we're playing Baldur's Gate. We can't hear you. Oh, what's that? You can't play Baldur's Gate? We'll go fucking play Starfield then.
Such a weird time to...
We're going backwards in time in this shit now with Mario's going back to his own console. Well,
yeah.
Actually, he already is.
I actually, part of me, I've said it a lot, but like part of me also thinks that like... Now we're starting to see some of these studios that Microsoft bought pull their games back when it comes to exclusivity and make them only Xbox and not PlayStation. And it's just like, I've never been really salty about that, because it's like, for most of video games, this is how it was. There was like a 5-year window where just everything was on everything, kind of.
Yes.
Like, kind of. You still can't play The Last of Us on the Xbox, no matter which Xbox you've got.
But you can now play MLB The Show, which is still very, like,
Yep.
that's also Sony driven. So there's still, I could see what you're saying. Yes, it felt like no matter what console you had, pick your poison, you'll get the game.
Yep.
And maybe it's crossplay. That's really what you were looking for. Is your thing crossplay so you can play with your friends?
Yes. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I buy this or not, mostly because I know the PlayStation has, I mean, oh, never mind. I totally buy this because I was going to say the PlayStation architecture is a PC-based architecture, and so is the Xboxes. And I was going to do one of those things where I'm like, so how hard could it be? It's like, it's always fucking hard. Like, you just don't see it because nobody writes news stories about how hard it is to put something out on like 3 systems simultaneously. But I'm sure
it's become so commonplace that they just don't need to talk about it, which is insane because, yes, the amount of effort to just go all of the bugs that exist between 3 different platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's crazy.
Also,
or mediums.
Speaking of bugs, it's funny because I've seen people talking about some of the bugs in Starfield. And I actually, I want to put this out there because I want to ask people this question. I've said this before. I don't think, can you think of anybody that makes games that are equivalent in complexity to dumb Bethesda games? Like, when you just think of, like, when you walk into a room in a Bethesda game, you can pick up every fucking thing. Like, somebody had to go in and put like pads and pieces of paper and orange juice and a half-eaten sandwich on a table, and not only can you pick them all up, but you can pick them all up, you can use them, you can throw them, and it keeps track of where all this shit is on top of enemies and stuff. And so, yeah, sometimes an NPC will walk in front of the camera when you're trying to have a cutscene, or the thing won't work. But then on the other hand, the game is trying to like create cutscenes no matter where you're standing, and it's like trying to simulate a bunch of people like walking around and doing stuff. And I keep trying to think to myself, like, because JRPGs, they don't fucking do that. That's all like super scripted. Like Outer Worlds, I think, was close to that, but you couldn't pick up everything in the world, and there were a lot. It was smaller. It was way smaller, like smaller areas, like very much divided kind of combat and social places. I remember when I realized how big Outer Worlds was, and I love that game, but it was just like, oh, this is a lot smaller than Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Where you walk into a house,
Endless, yeah.
You can find all the bowls. You can go get all the bowls in Skyrim and then put them in a place, and the game remembers how many bowls are in your place. So
and it's quite fun.
But I'm asking the audience too. I'd be interested to hear. Like, I think Baldur's Gate kind of works a little bit in that way because all the rooms have all this little garbage, and you can pick up torches and shit and plates and stuff.
What's the question exactly? Like,
well, what has the same level of complexity? Because a lot of times I feel like people are like, well, why? I always, as somebody who worked QA a long time ago, I'm a little bit rankled sometimes when people are like, Bethesda games are so buggy, and I'm like, well, they're the most complicated games that exist. Like, you're talking about how do you test for every scenario in one room in a Skyrim game? Now, you could make the argument that, like, you don't need to be able to pick up all the fucking knives and forks and bowls and shit. Like, in fact, it would probably make it a better game if it was you just pick up things that were like worth it,
right?
As opposed to all the trash in the world.
I know, it's hard. It's like thinking on the spot. I'm just thinking about all the games that I've played that doesn't, GTA is not the same thing because everything in that game just disappears, right? Like, no matter what, they don't have to really remember shit for that.
Or you go into a room in GTA and it's not like you can just go into a mode where you can pick up anything in the room.
There's 5 things that you can hit button presses that will then interact with a cutscene. That's it. That.
I mean, like Hitman's a similar way where there's a bunch of stuff, but everything that you can interact with in Hitman is like, scissors or a knife or a gun or a door or like, so it's not just like this room full of sandwiches and fucking
it's certainly something
machine guns.
Anybody that's going to armchair a game and say this is why it's bad, I mean, basically you're going to have about 20% that's accurate in terms of their criticism, and about 80% that's like, you have no fucking idea how this works.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, well, here's something you can complain about. A lot of peers over the weekend did a test in Starfield. So one of the things that people have been complaining about with Starfield is that you can't like in No Man's Sky, real-time land and take off from planets. I think this is a silly complaint because who the fuck wants to do that? I played Kerbal Space Program for hundreds of hours. It's a game that is devoted to only doing that. It takes a long time and it's boring, and I don't know why the fuck you'd want to do that as opposed to fast traveling down to the planet and then shooting a bunch of guys.
So you can't just like get into a spacecraft and then just go to a planet?
You can get in a spacecraft, you can go to planet all you want, but you can't fly down from space to the planet.
Oh, they want a seamless, like, even like an atmospheric break?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Yes.
Who gives a shit?
So Alana Pierce over the weekend tried with Pluto, basically, put her ship into Pluto orbit, pointed at the planet, and then for 7 hours went towards it, and she would leave and come back and adjust because the planets are orbiting, so you'd have to go back and adjust.
7 hours?
Yep. And then when she finally got close enough, boop, like went inside the planet, and there's nothing in there. That's what you're looking at right now. So you can
see. How much is this game? Retail?
$70.
Oh,
so
boy.
here you are close up to the planet, and then eventually you pass, and then it just, you're inside of it. There's nothing inside of it. It just disappears. Like,
there are people on Twitch that will watch somebody for 7 hours go to a dot.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. I've done it. I mean, I've streamed Kerbal Space Program, but at least I get to land on the dot.
Yeah, it's like I've streamed too, but damn, that's some content right there.
I don't know. I think a lot of times that people have been really mad about the idea that because when you play Starfield, God, why do I keep trying to say Skyrim? When you play Starfield, what you find out is that it's like, oh, do you want to go to a planet? You point at the planet, you hit a button, you quick travel there. You'll watch a little cutscene. You want to land on the planet, you point to where you want to land, you hit a button, you land there. You want to take off, you get in your ship, you hit the takeoff button, you take off. Like, you don't have to navigate between areas. You just like, I want to go to this system, and so you jump there. I want to go to this planet, so you jump to that planet. I don't see this as a downside because I think that if you had built in, I think that, again, going back to the work thing, I think it would be a shitload of work to program in the ability to, with no load or breaks, go between planets, land on planets, do whatever.
But I don't know. I guess I don't understand the whole 7 hours. I mean, yes, everything you're saying, but like now I'm more just like I'm like 7 hours to fly to a Pluto planet, and yes, I can see other spacecraft around her.
Yep.
I'm assuming those are players.
No, those are other places, other. Things.
So there's not. So like, but like, if you're existing in the same universe, do we see each other if I'm like 7 hours away?
No. The thing is that when you jump into Pluto orbit, like where you are is you're basically 7 hours worth of thrust away from that planet. You are 7 hours away in orbit. So to actually get close enough to that planet, you have to point at it and just keep going there and keep going there.
But
and keep going there.
But that's why you have fast travel, which is why that's a dynamic of the game.
Right.
Okay, got it.
The only thing I would say about this is that I feel like maybe a feature request would be if you get that close to the planet where you're about to pass into nothing, that it should then cut to a loading screen and then put you on the surface of the planet.
And now everybody is happy.
But let's see. Additionally, we were talking about clutter before. This was a really fun story. So there is there's a modder for Skyrim. Hey, I got to put it in there. Called Eleonora. This was a lady that would make these like incredibly detailed like little houses in Skyrim that you could download. And her big claim to fame was she loved to like decorate them, right? Take all that shit we were talking about, and put it in a way that you're like, oh, that looks nice. All that shit looks nice. And so it turns out that she actually got hired by Bethesda to go into Starfield and put shit into Starfield and do like little passes on stuff and shader passes and stuff, but she couldn't say anything about it. So since she's a modder, she has a social media account and stuff, and so she said that for like years now she's had to be like, wow, did you guys see that Starfield presentation? Oh, that game looks great. I can't wait to play it. It looks I've never seen it before. Meanwhile, she's putting fucking half-eaten sandwiches and
she
bunch of wrenches and stuff.
That's awesome. Good for her, man. That's a great story of, hey, you're doing something you love and it's recognized, then all of a sudden you're gonna get paid for it.
Yes, 100%. So, yep. Let's see from there. We've got some bugs. We got some fun bugs from Starfield. One of these was this guy that was looking for the crew members on his ship, and then he did a third-person camera for his spaceship, and he found that they were just standing. They're just standing outside. They're just standing on the outside of the ship,
Hanging out.
just hanging out, just going for a.
Is there any air out there for them?
Going for a spacewalk? No air. Just chilling.
It's a good way of trying to avoid somebody. I'm just gonna go hang out outside in space.
Yeah.
Spies.
So yeah, that was pretty fun. We had another one where it was, I think, oh yeah, somebody posted in the Reddit of, or in our Discord of somebody who was trying to fast travel, and they couldn't. It was like telling them that they couldn't, and then they figured out it was because at a certain point, one of the animals from the planet had essentially wandered into the ship, and they had to kill it. It's not like a rabbit. It's like
a giant creature of dinosaurs. Weird. Jeez.
Yeah. So, let's see what else we got. This one is from Pete Hines, the head of publishing over at Bethesda, and he was talking about a bug. There's a planet called Neon in the game. I haven't get there, but it's like built on top of an ocean, and apparently there was a thing where somehow the sharks that were below it would get into the elevator area, and then you would call an elevator and it would open up and there would just be a shark in there.
Oh, geez, that's awesome.
Because of the radiant stuff, like everybody around would start freaking out. You pull out your gun, you start shooting the shark, you go into combat. And he was like, and so apparently he saw this and was like, do not fix that. Leave that shit
great.
in the game.
That sounds great.
I want the elevator shark to stay in the game. But there's a quote from him saying that they probably fixed it. They probably fixed it, and nobody has explicitly
That's
put it out.
That's fun. These are fun bugs.
Yep. I mean, Bethesda bugs, man. They're there.
That guy who saved his family from the fire could learn something from that and save his family again from the elevator sharks.
I was really impressed with this one. This is classic Bethesda fuckery. Somebody basically either spawned with cheats or somehow just filled one of the holds on their ship with potatoes. And here's the thing. Like, I feel like if I was watching another game that it would have crashed with that number of
I was like, that's a very
potatoes.
smooth amount of potato for frame rates that I weren't dropping.
Yeah. And I really love this video because the companion says you're carrying too many odds and it's time to let something go. And
then you open
it up and it's just like all these fucking potatoes. But like the way that the potatoes like kind of cascade over each other and stuff, I'm like, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
They're
not even mad.
They look like beans too with that many of them.
Yeah. That same person also had, let's see, what was that from? Muzapan. Oh, that's a good name. Had another, let's see, where is it? They had a kind of a follow-up where they put the companion in the room with the potatoes and then exploded the potatoes. But
it crashed.
Well, it's unclear whether it crashed or whether they just stopped the video at that point.
Well, the potatoes are in your face, and it's a good look.
Somebody in the comments to this was saying, I don't know how much internet bullshittery you encounter on a regular basis.
Many.
That the way to do this would have had during that explosion to fade to white. And then to fade to the guy saying,
Skyrim.
Yes,
yeah,
finally awake.
You're finally awake, are you?
Which I thought was a good one. All right, back to something that actually counts more like news and less like, haha, look at that. So one of the things that happened on day one was somebody modded DLSS support into Starfield. Bethesda made a deal with AMD, so Starfield comes with FSR, but no XeSS or DLSS support. AMD actually put out a statement, though, last week saying, like, we didn't tell them they couldn't have DLSS. We just said, you have to, like, prioritize our thing, but, like, you could put that in there.
They're lazy, not our fault.
So... Okay, a modder who had modded DLSS into, I think it was Jedi Fallen Order and a couple other games, he came out immediately day one with a mod that you could install that would basically take the FSR support and turn it into DLSS via mod. You had to go get other stuff. I tried installing it 10 minutes before we started recording. I loaded up Starfield and it immediately crashed. And I was like, I was going to play this on the Xbox.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this. So that was for DLSS 2. Now, the same modder has released a second mod for DLSS 3. This mod is behind their Patreon. So you must go give them $5 on their Patreon in order to get the mod. Not just that, but the mod also has DRM built into it to make sure that you are
bullshit.
A valid patron.
That to me is damn. That's awesome engineering, but that's bullshit, right? If I guess this comes back to they're making money against Starfield now, and I feel like that's some sort of like trademark thing because you're basically like making money off of the platform of Starfield of the base game, right?
Yes.
Is that kind of where this is going, or
well, maybe. I don't know. The thing is, I don't have a good solution here. The final part of this story is this. Of course, then the community cracked the DRM on the mod.
Good.
So that so you're literally cracking other people's paid mods in order to make it so that anybody can use it. Somebody else apparently also put out a competing DLSS 3 mod that crashes the game and isn't very good, but whatever. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't really know. I read a whole bunch of the comments. This is from a Kotaku article, and I should not have been in the Kotaku comment section, but I read a lot of comments. Here's the thing. On the one hand, this guy did something that the community wants. He put time and effort into doing a thing, and if you put time and effort into doing a thing, you may deserve if you put time and effort into doing a thing and the market will support it, you should be able to say, you got to give me $5. I think it's kind of bullshit. I mean, like, I get why. I wish that it wasn't through a Patreon. I wish that it was like a store, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the interesting thing of it. The reason why they went Patreon is because clearly if they did the store thing, they're getting sued.
Right.
You're right. And that's what's funny about it is that clearly there was thought put into it's kind of a gray area, right?
So, yeah,
I could see 150,000 players so far had it, which means 5 times 150,000 was their fucking net revenue for Patreon.
Yep.
Who knows about the whole month-to-month thing and how many they had people carry over? They could have made a cool $1 million from this. I could see that being a huge fucking problem for.
Game's been out for like 8 days, but we're just starting here.
That's still a big chunk of change, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. So then the other side from the comments, the people that made the most convincing counter arguments and weren't just like, fuck you, it's fucking I don't give a shit what you want to charge. I want it. Give it to me. It's mine. The best counter argument that was not that was like, if you do this and it gets too popular, you are going to force Bethesda essentially to be like, okay, no, you can't do that. Like, you're running code on top of our code. That is explicitly not allowed by the end user licensing agreement. We, because we're Bethesda, generally turn a blind eye towards mods because we love the modding community, right? Yeah.
We found fucking people to work with us.
Exactly. But then, because the other argument is, so one, you may draw the ire of Bethesda, and then two, imagine if all modders decide to go to you got to give me $5 for my mod. Like, is that going to make the mod community better or worse? I have news for everybody. I do not mod Bethesda games because I'm fine with the bullshit. I will get used to their bad inventory system before I fucking sign up for a Nexus Mods account and download their mod manager and then subscribe to the mod and then auto download the mod and then point it at the I'm just gonna turn my Xbox and play a video game. Go fuck yourself. Like, I think I installed when I finally got around to playing New Vegas, I installed like 3 mods and it was like, make it look better, make it not crash as often, and like one other thing, like take out some bullshit I didn't like.
Yeah.
But it was none of this like, that lady made some nice houses. I would never install one of those fucking houses
I was
in
like,
Skyrim.
That's completely. I mean, I'm not into it. I'm not into that. I appreciate it, but I'm just not into that type of stuff.
I get that house in Skyrim. I get that breeze home in fucking Whiterun. And they're always like, oh, if you give us $2,000, we'll put chairs in there. And I'm like, why would I need chairs? I just make my house call stay in there. I run in there. I put a bunch of stuff in a treasure chest. I sleep for 8 hours, and then I fucking leave. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that Bethesda, is that the right? I guess Bethesda and Starfield, right?
yeah.
So it's like Bethesda's going to go in and go, we're going to hire you, but we're not going to sue you. You need to take it down. And they'll just basically pay this person to probably just put out DLS. This person is doing their job.
If they put out DLSS, it's not going to be through whatever hack this guy put in there.
No, but I mean, like, if it's this easy, the easiest way is to kill. People won't pay for something that comes in a game.
Yeah.
Right? Easiest thing to do for this is just make it available. But
the other thing you have to remember, of course, is that it's not just Bethesda anymore, because Bethesda is owned by Microsoft. And so you've got, and Microsoft is trying to be Mr. Cool Guy right now, like trying not to piss everybody off by just being like, hey, whatever, man.
he's a substitute teacher before he breaks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But like, I don't know. So on the one hand, I just can't really get behind the idea of like, I'm going to charge you for the mod that I created.
That model's
like,
not going to work.
I mean, like, the thing is that it's one thing if it's something very useful, like it's not even that. It's just, I can't. Mods are supposed to be kind of like for the love of the game, or even total
Or nudity.
or yes, right. Obviously,
Pay me $5 to see boobs.
yep. That was why Baldur's Gate, when they released it, was just like, you don't have to pay.
We're showing you genitalia day one.
Here you go, character creation screen. Take everyone's clothes off. Do whatever the fuck you want to. We're not your dad. We don't care.
We're not your dad. The game.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to hear. This is like such an internet thing to say. I keep asking people to comment, like I'm trying to do that thing where I'm just like, comment so that this video gets more hits. But it's like, I actually would be interested to hear an actual argument. Like, I kind of get both those arguments. And so if you have an argument that's not either of the things that I've said, of like people should get paid for their work. In the comment section here, there was somebody who was just like, but he did work and workers deserve to get paid. And it's like, my man, it is not that fucking simple. Like, it is not just like, you did a thing, you deserve to get paid. It's like, no, you hacked a third company's technology into a second company's game that's owned by this company.
You stole other people's work. Because basically, you did a lot of work there.
You used a company that allows you to charge people to download a mod that checks the status of that, to put NVIDIA's third-party technology into Bethesda's, nay, Microsoft's video game. There's like, this is not one man working alone against the system.
The new comment will be, but the guy who saved his family was running this DLSS 3 mod, and he paid for it, and it worked.
He was that story was a plant this whole time,
Yeah,
just to circumvent any criticism. Oh, yeah. Yep. Let's see. We do have some Baldur's Gate news. Baldur's Gate 3 had a recent hotfix that made it so. I think the second big patch had a thing where there's a character called Mathara. I killed her because, let's just say this. Early on in the game, there is a character who's like a dark paladin. She's like a drow paladin.
Yeah.
And she's hanging out with a bunch of bad dudes. And so you can get her in your party if you commit an incredible atrocity. And I was like, I do not care. There's a lot
I will
of
not commit these atrocities. I do not care.
characters to be horny about. I am not going to kill all these women and children just to get this one drow babe in my party. No. I shoved her off the side of a cliff and killed her ass like super. But the internet's been super horny for her. So recently they made it easier to get her in your party. And then in the third act of the game, you're supposed to open up into, there's supposed to be a relationship that forms between you and her. But because they've been working a lot with like these weird when to trigger certain social interaction sliders, and so this latest patch made it so that she has more lines of dialogue, and that other characters have more lines of dialogue about her lines of dialogue if you have her in the third act of the game. I didn't have this problem. I didn't need this patch because I shoved her off a cliff and killed her ass. It's like super good. But what was they released a whole list of stats of what people did, and so I think like 25% of you guys may need this. So yeah. Additionally, I thought this was really interesting. Turns out that the characters in Baldur's Gate 3 were never supposed to be as horny as they were. So when the game shipped, every character that you interact with, basically when you do anything that they like, it'll say like so-and-so liked that, right?
Yeah.
And they have a little meter. You go to their thing, you see a little meter that goes up. Yeah. And there's a threshold in that meter to where the romance options open up. And on the PC, when the game launched, that bar was too low on everybody's. So the result was when the game came out, you started to see all these op-eds coming out about like, this is the horniest game I've ever played. It's like, I've known this person for 10 minutes. They're just like, yo, let's go. And it turns out that was a bug.
It's faster than The Sims, man.
That everybody was supposed to like try to get to know you a little better and not immediately just be like, you, me, the bushes, let's go. Which I think it's kind of interesting because this all got fixed for the PS5 version that came out this week.
Of course.
So it'll be different.
Console players can have fun.
I wonder so much these days about like, you know, I played Baldur's Gate in the first 2 weeks that it came out, and like, am I gonna have to go back and replay it in 3 years when it's like a completely different?
Yeah. You're probably not gonna like it as much.
Nah, I only wanted to get with
like,
Karlach.
I don't.
She was cool.
I don't get with all my characters. I just push some off cliffs. That's
So yeah. If you ever wondered why everybody in the game was all horned up for you, boom, there you go. I did notice that though, because like roughly 20% of the way through the game, every single character was like, "Yo,
We're
girl,
down.
let's do this," and I was like, nah, man, nah. Like,
oh man, get off my shoulder, dude. Like,
you suck. You keep fucking doing suck things. I don't know why you're all get away from me. So, let's see. Also, we got an interview with Larian where they say that Baldur's Gate 3 crossplay is coming, but they don't want to put a date on it. This for the multiplayer. Now the console versions are out. They'd always plan on doing it. I do not mind the idea of them being like, let's make sure that the Xbox version comes out.
Yeah, I'm like,
we start doing crossplay.
Crossplay has to have more than like 2 sometimes.
Yep. So yeah, but they did say that they're looking to do that. I think that's great. I've been really impressed at just the hearing the number of people that are playing the game multiplayer, because it's such a fucking big game.
Well, it's also like the multiplayer is super fucking confusing as well, which is not my favorite, but I played it with people and it's fun. Yeah.
Do you know that they added in one of the patches recently the ability to take somebody that you start a multiplayer game with out of your party, and Withers has like a people closet now that you can like put players into.
Oh, nice.
To take them out of your party to continue playing that same session
without
them, and then when they come back, you can basically get them out of this wardrobe and put them back into your party. So
yeah, that's actually cool.
Yeah, they were thinking about it. It's such a complicated game. Like
it is. There's no simple way around it.
Yeah. Let's see. Speaking of games, I know that Blake has played Diablo 4. Got some news.
What happened now?
Well, actually, this is not bad news, or I don't know. I think it's bad news. Other people may not. Apparently, the plan is that Diablo 4 is supposed to be getting like quarterly content drops and then a new paid expansion every single year forever. The end, or until it's done.
So if you bought the Game Pass or you bought the... Because
that'll be for like a season,
yeah,
which will go on, I think, for like a quarter or two. But then there's like going to be a full paid
fuck you, Blizzard
expansion once a year, in addition to a new Game Pass to buy every quarter. That's the thing, is that they put this out, and I look at the title, just like Blizzard says that they're going to add new content to Diablo all the time, and they're going to do it for the foreseeable future. And I'm just like, you fucking greedy asses, like. Stop.
The game is a glorified cookie clicker.
I don't like it. I know there are plenty of people who do.
I enjoyed it as a time suck as it was, and doing something online with people while we were just chatting about whatever.
Sure.
Perfect game.
Yep.
Perfect game.
Yep.
No thought, completely devout of any type of fucking... It's just, it's only... Just play Cookie Clicker. It's fucking free.
Well, I think the most damning part is in this article, they laid out that of quarterly updates and then yearly paid updates. That's what Destiny does. And I want to play Destiny. So
yeah, it's like Destiny, is that game dead yet?
Oh, no. But the idea that's like Diablo 4 now like Destiny 2, and I'm like, oh, good. That it makes me.
There's
feel...
a game that makes me want to go. Oh, I'm glad it's like this now.
Yep, not that. Okay, let's see. In other medieval RPG news, let's see, where are we at here? Final Fantasy 16 is getting a PC version that's going to be coming out probably at some point next year, which is good. That's actually a really kind of quick turnaround when you think about it, considering Final Fantasy 16 came out like 4 months ago, like 3 or 4 months ago.
They're quickly moving to that.
And not just that, there was a big update that we'll talk about later, but then also it was announced that there's going to be 2 DLC packs for the game, which were not like... of all the companies that I like to talk shit about, it was weird to me that they didn't have DLC lined up for this just by default. Like, it's a Final Fantasy game, like, right? Like, of course you're going to want to cash in on all the Final Fantasy
Everything you can.
heads, right? But Yoshida wanted to see if people wanted DLC for the game before they committed to doing it. So it wasn't in pre-production. Now they've started the production, and it's going to be coming out at some point. I really do hope. I still think that Final Fantasy 16 is like a solid 7 out of 10. Like no higher, but no lower either. Just like I enjoyed it.
As a consistent it's a consistent and good approach of a Final Fantasy game. Done, dusted, right?
No. Well,
that's what you're hoping for.
I didn't like I thought that I really wish they hadn't called it Final Fantasy, because the way that the action-based combat was, nothing to do with any previous Final Fantasy ever. It was more like a Devil May Cry than a Final Fantasy game. And then,
that might interest me, because I like that type of style.
It was a very compelling third-person combat that you could just kind of like roll through. It was exciting enough, but not so hard that you were just like, fuck this game. And then I also didn't like the fact that it was just like mostly this main character, so it didn't have like as diverse a cast as a lot of the other Final Fantasy games did, where you get to choose like a party of people. It was mostly just this one fucking generic protagonist guy and like his brother and childhood friend and dog, and we're gonna go around Game of Thrones and kill everybody.
There it is.
And I was like, it was very close to being incredibly enjoyable. I just kind of wish it wasn't named Final Fantasy, because, as I've said a bunch of times before, Final Fantasy spent decades building an expectation in me about what that name means.
Yeah.
And I do think that you bear some of the responsibility if you're like, now it's something completely different. And it's like, well,
that's not what I expected.
Right. Yeah. If I buy Hitman and it's a real-time strategy game, I'm going to be like, wait, hold on. This may be a very good real-time strategy game, but why the hell is it called Hitman?
I was prepared for a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're a little bit early, but I think with that, we're ripping through these. We're going to go ahead and take a break because we're about to get into Nintendo, and I don't want to.
We don't want to
spoil
the Nintendo fans here.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be it for part 1. Everybody stick around. We'll be back for part 2 in just a second. It's time for Nintendo.
Nintendo is okay.
Yes. Apparently, we were talking about Final Fantasy 16 DLC before. Apparently, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, no DLC. They came up this week and said they've basically said everything they want to say about that particular version of Hyrule, and so they're not going to be making any DLC for it. They've already started kind of moving on to their next project. Which is really interesting, because Nintendo, like, it took Nintendo a long time.
Milk that shit out usually.
Yeah, it took Nintendo a long time to learn what DLC is, but then when they did, they were like, everything has it. Everything has a million DLCs. Like, what's that? Xenoblade Chronicles? It's just like fucking 40 DLCs or whatever. Even the last one had, motorcycle and a bunch of expansion
there was a bunch of different shit. Yeah.
So kind of interesting. I feel like I'm at this point in my life, I'm kind of glad because I don't know that I have the time to go back to that world.
I don't feel like I have the time since Breath of the Wild, man. I haven't even really dove into Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
It was very popular when I went to Japan. That was like when it first came out. And then ever since, it's just been more games coming out. So
Yep. Oh, you know what? This ties into that. Modding thing very briefly because there's a story, I don't have it on the list, but apparently Nintendo now has the ability to put de novo DRM into Nintendo games they've never had before, and this kind of happened right after all of the piracy surrounding Tears of the Kingdom and the subreddits and the emulator updates and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, if you bring enough bullshit
to Nintendo, they're gonna do something about it.
Yep. Now, I don't think that Bethesda is quite as litigious or jerky as Nintendo, because Nintendo, they just hate the idea that you might
They don't want you to have fun outside of their fun.
Yes. They have the fun room, and you need to be in there.
You're not leaving.
No fun outside of the fun room. Like, if you want to have fun.
You open that door, you will get pummeled by some other Nintendo character.
Yep. Let's see. Additionally, we had the announcement of a new Nintendo Switch for Animal Crossing that's coming this holiday season. There's going to be two of them. There's going to be a blue one and then a pink one. Apparently, you get the blue one at Walmart, you get the pink one at Target. They both come with Animal Crossing. So there you go.
Very cool.
Switch. Which is mostly just grist for me to go into this story, which is about
Lenovo getting into the handheld market.
Yeah. So ever since the Switch and then the Steam Deck came out and made money, I feel like everybody else is trying now to
Logitech is
jump
coming out
in
with
there.
Yep.
Yeah, they had the what was that? The ROG Ally was the last one from Asus. But yeah, it looks like Lenovo is going to be throwing down into that marketplace with this Legion Go. The big thing for this thing is apparently it has like a hell of a screen. It's got like a
looks big.
It's the resolution on the screen is higher than my monitor.
Jesus God.
It's let's see, yeah, it's a 2560 by 1600 IPS panel with 144 hertz refresh rate. I don't know how the hell you're going to expect any game to run at that, like for these, because they all have
maybe Starfield.
Yes. Well, it has like this AMD mobile chips, right? Which you have to have because this thing looks very much like a Switch. It's got like the removable controllers on both sides. It's got a little pop-out kickstand on the back that you can put down. It's got your full-on controllers. Like it really does. If it wasn't made by Lenovo, I would think that this thing was just like some kind of Chinese
knockoff
Switch knockoff, right? It's got a little touchpad on it. One of the cool things I think that it does is it's got, let's see if I can find the part in the video where they show us. If you take the right hand controller off, it's got like a little, it's hard to describe.
Like a pointer or something?
So it's got a little circular dock, and you put the controller in the dock, and then it's like it sits on your desk like a joystick, right? Like vertically oriented, and you can click a button on the bottom, and it puts it into FPS mode, where basically like that right hand stick then becomes like a mouse for an FPS that you literally slide around on the desk, and it keeps track of where it's going with like gyros and stuff, and you can use it to play an FPS. And I'm like, guys, at some point you just need to buy a gaming laptop. Like, this is not
like we're really pushing the edge here of what's actually like just a laptop,
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. This thing is pretty cool looking. It's like $699. So
that's not bad.
The big thing for me though is I don't know, every time I see one of these things, it's like I know that
looks really fucking big in that guy's hand.
It's a very big unit. Is that I can't, a lot of times I'm thinking like, if you're gonna spend $700, you might as well just throw in another $300 and buy a PC.
Fucking banging PC, yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I think I dramatically underestimate the number of people who want to game not sitting in front of their computer, because I do spend all day, every day sitting in front of my computer.
I've thought about the whole mobile console going, I have a Switch.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm just not playing enough on the go.
Yeah.
I'll sit on an airplane and I'll play it for like 30 minutes and I get bored with it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The only time I've taken my Switch out of the dock in the last 2 years. No, it's been like 4 years now, was when I went to go visit my parents, and like I needed something to take with me
Right,
for
to
gaming.
play, yeah.
Right. But I don't know. Like, that's such a very specific thing where it's like, you can spend 4 days not playing video games.
That's okay,
It's
yeah.
fine. So I don't know. But I know a lot of other people like to have something like this so that they can, like, I don't know, game on the couch with their significant other while they're watching a movie. But then I'm like, but you're not watching the movie, you're playing the game.
I'm still here. I'm still not immersed in front of my
So I don't know, but it seems like a good unit for that. I think Lenovo makes pretty good hardware. Like, I bought a new laptop. That's a Lenovo over there. So, yeah. Let's see. In Steam news, Steam has an update that's coming out that's going to basically identify can be used to identify whether a game has native PlayStation controller support to it.
Nice.
Which is something that right now not a lot of games have, and there isn't any indicator to tell you whether they do. It'll just say it has gamepad support, which at this point is mostly the
Xbox controller.
Yeah. So this could be very useful because by having that support and then using, they've got some developer hooks in there that will tell developers whether a game has the switch turned on for like has PlayStation
It's
support.
like an API.
Yeah, where they can start maybe using the some of the features on the new DualShock, like the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers and stuff, which right now I haven't seen that many PC games that use any of that stuff. I'm not sure if the Sony ones do because I have never bought a Sony game on my PC.
Yeah, that seems. Yeah,
I have a PlayStation for that, but yeah, it also has one of the things in the bullet points that they brought out said that like this is updates to the Steam desktop client to make it more clear when a game requires use of a controller to play, because I do think that there's still a few games on Steam that are just like, no, you need a controller. Like, we didn't bother. You don't want to play this with the mouse and keyboard. You want a controller.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know. I mentioned this to you off mic, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor got the update this week that I've been waiting for since that fucking game came out.
They're solid 60 frames per second.
Yep. So not only a solid 60 frames per second, that's solid 60 frames per second on the PlayStation, and the PC version is getting DLSS support, which this is another one where it had FSR support but not DLSS. That was actually the same guy that modded it. Modded it into Jedi Survivor.
$5, please.
Yes. I actually loaded it up today, and I was like, oh, it is a rock solid 60 frames per second if you put it in performance mode, which is how I wanted to play that game because it's an action game in the first place. So, yeah, good news if you've been waiting for that. Also, I mean, I don't know if people know this or not, but like EA has a subscription service where if you have a gaming PC, you could just install this game. Like, you don't have to pay $70 for it. You just pay for the subscription service. There was another game recently that they put out that was also on there, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was.
It's like their own Game Pass.
Yes, they basically tried to do their own Game Pass. Okay, now what was it? There's some game that I actually played on. What was the latest Electronic Arts game? Quick, Blake. What was the latest Electronic Arts game?
I'm playing FIFA, but I know it's not the right answer.
You are correct. Let's see. What was it? The Sims, FIFA. Nope.
Wild Hearts?
No, it was Immortals of Avium. That's what it was. It was that new first-person magical shooter that was on there. So, yeah. In other game update news, Remnant 2 is getting updated. I actually think Remnant 2, that was like a really underrated game that came out not too long ago, to basically make it run better, including what they're calling the potato mode for potato PCs. It's nice to see a developer that is updating their game so that it will run on more lower grade hardware.
Yeah, so you can expose more of the audience.
Yeah, because apparently when they were originally developing the game, they had kind of in mind that it was going to be played on systems that had up-res technology, which they kind of considered in retrospect to be a mistake because it means that you're like, I actually was thinking about how I kind of worry about with FSR and DLSS and that stuff. There's actually even a news story that just came out that I didn't put on this list where Nintendo apparently is showing developers behind closed doors the Switch Pro.
Yeah, they did that recently. Yeah,
yeah, and that one of the reasons that it's able to work is because they're instituting DLSS into the Switch for up-resing from a lower resolution in order to, have 4K and better performance. I was thinking about how, this is a really good way to squeeze more life out of something that exists. But what I didn't think about when this technology was first coming up is if this is implemented on everything, then it means that developers no longer have to even try to optimize because they could just make it run at a lower resolution and then
upscale the fuck out of it.
Just use the AI to upscale it, which means that your games are going to be a little bit more just less sharp, less.
It'd be much more like a Netflix stream, which is I don't know. Am I getting 4K? Is this 1080p?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, but I have to applaud those guys. Also, Remnant 2 rules. Put it on your wish list. If it gets cheap, go buy it because it was fun. Let's see. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is in the news, which is weird because it hasn't been in the news for quite some time. I think it was announced in 2019. There were a couple of different kind of little gameplay things. It turns out that I didn't actually remember this, but the company that was making it literally got fired from the publisher that was that was getting ready to put the game out, the IP holder. And so this week it was basically re-announced under a new development studio. So an entirely new development studio is using some of the art assets from the game, but is also kind of retooling the entire development. This is the Chinese Room, which is the company that made... It's really strange because you're watching this trailer, and this trailer is this ultra-violent first-person action gameplay where you're a vampire and you're just punching the shit out of people and throwing blood everywhere. This is the company that made Dear Esther, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Amnesia 2, A Machine for Pigs, and mostly walking simulators.
Right. They definitely leveled up, man.
Yeah, and so whether they can do it or not, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because I think that, when people think about Vampire the Masquerade, the original, I believe, is really well beloved because it has such a branching, open narrative and all this different RPG stuff that you can do. It'll be interesting to see, though, whether they're able to execute on that. I'll say that this little teaser, they also put out a 4-minute long, we're gonna let everybody who made this game talk to the camera and say how excited they are and how we just can't wait to show you this new world. And I feel like we've been working towards this game. We all talk about how dark it is in the studio. I'm so tired of listening to developers prattle on about it's I don't care.
It's stop it this.
I don't care. Is it good? Is it not good? But this little teaser looks fun.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Yeah. And it looks good too.
Yeah.
It's got a high production quality to it that looks nice. Apparently they've changed it to where you're now an elder vampire who has woken up from 1,000-year sleep. So it's kind of, you're still doing the sort of fish out of water level 1 thing, but that the possibilities are that you're going to have these incredibly
powers as you go along.
Yeah,
you're going to get this back up.
Yeah, these huge powers from as the game continues. So I don't know. And it's supposed to come out next year, fall of 2024. Who knows whether they can actually hit a development date? But I do feel like a lot of the delays that we've seen over the last few years with the pandemic and going to remote work and stuff like that have kind of filtered out. They've kind of
brought it back to reality.
Yeah, that we've got all the issues have been worked through, and that we're kind of back to a pipeline where you could develop a game in a year of work, especially if you were coming into something that had assets that you could already use. So. Good news for fans of Vampire the Masquerade. Bad news for fans of Saints Row. This happened right after we recorded the podcast last week, but Volition, the game developer that has been around for a long time that brought us Saints Row, Red Faction, Descent. They were originally Paradox Interactive. All of Descent Free Space. They have been shut down. So after 30 years, they are done. So they were bought a few years back by this Swedish company called the Embracer Group. It's like a
it's a conglomerate that probably owns a bunch of entertainment portfolios or some shit. Or
they kind of came out of nowhere. I get the impression they're like a VC-backed organization that just kind of came out like, and they were doing a bunch of deals, and they started just buying a crazy amount of stuff. Like they bought the rights. They bought Tomb Raider and Deus Ex off of Square Enix. They bought Volition. They bought a bunch of different properties. And then I don't know, was it you and I that talked about this?
Yeah,
where they were supposed to get this $2 billion like investment from the Saudis, and then that fell through. And when it fell through, it was like, oh, we got to tighten the belt.
We don't have any more of these assets that we could pay for.
Yeah, and part of that apparently was shutting down Volition, which, you know, I don't know. I really enjoyed that Saints Row game. It also is like very dark because that Saints Row game is on PlayStation Plus this month. It's the free game that comes on PlayStation Plus, and it's very possible that might have like brought some new interest to
their
the
thing.
game.
That's now is
I really didn't think it was that bad of a game, to be honest. Like, I really enjoyed my time with it. But I feel like it just got from its announcement, it got this rap of being like, hey, it's a politically correct SJW game for SJWs. It's got a lady on the cover. It's like, yeah, you could also be a fucking jack dude if you want. Like, the whole point of that game is you can create whatever character you want.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think it's really sad it's gotten shut down. As somebody put in the comments on this one, like, what a time to live in a world where mega corporations are just buying up everything, and then if your favorite thing isn't like the most profitable thing in the world,
bye.
Oops, that studio that's been around for 30 years is gone.
Yeah, it's such a hey, you got to keep making money. There's no like flat line anymore if it's possible.
Yep. Now the flip side of that is that after Saints Row 4 came out, Volition made Saints Row Gat Out of Hell, which was a musical, and it was terrible. And then after that, they made a game called Agents of Mayhem that was supposed to take place like years in the future from Saints Row. And that was so bad that me and my friend Amanda were doing a full sequential of it, and after part 4 we just stopped. We were just like, done. No more. So it's possible they just lost their mojo, and like every video game company that can't make good video games, you know, on the one hand I feel sorry for the whole venture capital like buying up properties. On the other hand, if you're a video game company and you can't make games that people want to play,
you're kind of in the red. Yeah.
I don't know, I can make an argument that you should be able to stick around. Let's see. Another shutting down news. I don't think anybody remembers this except for old Jeff, because I actually bought this game. There was a game called Space Punks that came out in 2021 in early access on the Epic Game Store, and it was a kind of a top-down semi-Diablo procedurally generated, rude and crude futuristic game made by a company called Flying Wild Hog, who they've done the Shadow Warrior reboot and then a game called Evil West that I really liked. We also did a sequential 4 as well as Shadow Warrior. And they put it out in early access in 2021, and they're shutting it down. I never got the impression they didn't. I feel like I saw one trailer for this, and then I saw because I'm head deep in news every week that it came out, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy that. And I loaded it up, and I was like, this seems interesting, but too early to show
anybody.
Yes,
it's very alpha.
Yes. And then I just never heard anything about it again. And apparently, like, the subreddit for the game, when it was announced it was going offline, nobody commented. And, like, they're not having any kind of, like, we're unlocking everything, that kind of end of a live service type of thing. But, so, yeah, I don't know. I guess just...
it just dies.
just mark it down, I suppose.
Yeah. Pull it down.
I don't know. It seemed interesting though, so whatever.
Kind of sucks.
Let's see. Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones. Anybody? Skull and Bones. Anybody? Has lost its third creative director. This is Elizabeth Pellin, who was working with the Skull and Bones team back in 2018, has left Ubisoft Singapore to return to the Paris headquarters and continue working for Ubisoft there. She didn't leave, but she did leave this project. I believe that this is the most cursed video game project I've ever heard of in my entire life.
More than Duke Nukem Forever?
At this point, maybe. The thing is that they just recently had a closed beta for this game, and it so if this is a creative director and they're in the closed beta portion, it's possible that like this person is no longer needed. There are more like
everything's done. Yeah, from the creative director side.
So it's not entirely like a huge death knell that this is happening. But it's also not a great sign when somebody is like, all right, I'm done. Get me the fuck out of here. I want to go back to Paris.
Blast off.
But that's actually not all, because there's also I don't know exactly how this works. There's like the Creative Media and Publishing Union is doing like a straw poll or something like that, like with the workers there. It seems like, I don't know how the union scene in Singapore works, to be honest, but apparently it's enough that there's some movement towards like joining this, whatever this union organization is. I think it would be really interesting if the workers at this weird Ubisoft studio that has never put out a single game,
they're going to unionize. Yeah.
Unionizes to be like, fuck you guys. I will say this though, the funniest thing I've seen here is this part of the statement from Ubisoft. Ubisoft believes in the importance of listening to our employees and fostering an open dialogue, and we believe that we have appropriate mechanisms and initiatives in place to continue creating a great workplace. Okay, this is what
That's so HR written.
You got to tell me what this means, because I have no idea what this means. Ubisoft Singapore was voted by employees as a uppercase great place to work, like
the individual
proper nouns. Yes, in 2022. What the fuck does that mean? Does Singapore have a thing where it's like, all right, everybody, it's time to vote on a great place to work? Like, what is that?
Where else do you work?
What is that? What is that proper noun of? It was voted as not like the top, but a great place to work. Proper noun in 2022.
There's a list of great places to work.
Yes. It sounds like some bullshit that they made up.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, everybody, it's time for the first annual great place to work. It's the Dundies, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
please vote on this card. There's only one option.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Hey, you like working here, right? Yeah. Jim over there, he says, great place to work, 2022.
Proper down that shit.
Right. Like, what the fuck does that even mean?
I mean, Singapore apparently is a lot of fun. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
And then I can see why somebody from like, I'm going to go back to Paris. Like, I understand.
Well, this project, if you don't already know, okay, so for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, here's the Cliff Notes version. It is commonly thought, and there's enough evidence to support this, that it's possible that Ubisoft signed a deal with the government of Singapore to waive the taxes as long as they opened a studio and released a game. This game has been in development for like 11 years now, and nothing has happened, because it was a spin-off of Assassin's Creed 4.
Yeah, Black Flag, yeah.
Yeah, which was like, remember, Assassin's Creed 4 straddled the PS3, PS4 like launch cycle?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's been in development a long fucking time, and the idea is that they keep bringing on creative directors, and then they keep going, this is all garbage, we got to start over, and then starting everything
it's almost
over.
like it's a ruse.
But that they can't cancel it, because then they'd have to pay all the taxes, and so they have to put something out, and everything that comes out of this game makes it look like a game that should have come out in the early PS4 era, where it's like, oh, this doesn't look like a very good, like,
this is not very updated with like any type of like new type gen
right
engines.
Plus that whole that whole era is gone. We were like super duper into weird boat multiplayer online combat
or
games.
done.
So I could see this lady being like, did I do it? Is it done? Yes. All right. Fuck you guys. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm leaving.
My
Hire
portion
somebody
of this
else.
project is done. Thank you.
Also, it's worth noting that Ubisoft is just a real gross company. Like, it's all owned by a family. There's a lot of reports of
Weird shit going on.
Yeah, bad shit happening. They've managed to mostly keep it under wraps, but also the other scuttlebutt that you hear a lot in the industry is that Ubisoft has been shedding workers. Like, people have just been getting headhunted away because it's such a bad place to work with low pay that headhunters can just be like, hey, you're a good art director. How'd you like to make twice as much and work for a company that doesn't like treat you like shit?
Yeah.
And people are like, fuck yeah. So then as you have that brain drain, it gets harder to then hire people back into it because then you get a reputation for being a company where they don't pay you very much.
Cycle.
So, yeah. We also got an ESRB rating for a remaster of Beyond Good and Evil. In other Ubisoft news, this is probably the 20th anniversary edition. Most likely is going to be what happens. That would be this year if it came out because it was released in the 2003. This would be not a story that I would even be saying, except for the fact that Ubisoft showed us Beyond Good and Evil 2 in like 2018, and we have not seen anything since. I believe actually the was it Michael Ansel? Yeah, the main creative guy behind Good and Evil. He left like 2 years ago, and then their main project director, I believe, died last year.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, not looking great.
Not looking great for that, but yeah, what's gonna happen?
I never played the original Beyond Good and Evil. I mean, I tried a few times, but by the time I got around to it, having that reputation, it was so old that like going back to it was very
Like, yeah, it's kind of
weird old game. So I don't know. I'll play a remaster if it comes out. Let's see. Here's a name hasn't come by in a while. Star Citizen.
Isn't that still Starfield? Oh wait, there's two different things.
Yep.
Oh, they're getting left behind.
Star Citizen is our local guy, Chris Roberts of Wing Commander fame, who, what was it, like 8 years ago, said, like, I'm going to make the best space sim that's ever been. It could never be on a console. It could only ever be on a PC. And the thing is that they have this like weird crowdfunding model where they keep getting more funding. I didn't realize this. This game passed $600 million in funding.
Jesus.
Like, that is way beyond what you need to make any video game. Any video game in the world. Like, $600 million, that is way too much to not have a game.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this spurred on a little bit of weird controversy where some people that worked at one guy, let's be clear. I don't want to be clear. One guy who worked there said, like, I can't believe they just passed 600 million with all these layoffs that are happening.
Ooh.
And then, like, Cloud Imperium Games came out and said there are not any layoffs. Like, we've gone from like 500 to 1,100 people. We had 9 people that got like moved from this area to like this area because they were no longer needed to do tasks on this team.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know who this guy is or why he's saying this, but like we are not laying people off. Now that's not to say that, you know, I still think that $600 million in 8 years of development with 1,100 people, your game should be out, my man.
Done. Yeah.
Like I should be able to play it. And you've probably hit the point now where like, if you don't release this shit soon, when it does come out, it's going to look like ass because everything's going to pass you by in the fucking years and years of development that you've had to do. So
I wonder if you could play Starfield within Star Citizen.
They brought Mark Hamill out to do a bunch of like all this voice acting and stuff, and like it's supposed to be, you know, there's like a whole first person shooter segment. It's like Starfield, except that like I haven't heard anything about Star Citizen in so long outside of this one
thing,
weird story. So and then let's see, 2 more weird stories. I only skimmed this one, so you guys can go check out what is this? Oh, I think I might have hit a YouTube video and then it might have played and kept going. It's like some dog grooming video. I was looking at my tabs, and one of them was like, Mr. Snuffles gets a I was like,
What the fuck?
what's Mr. Snuffles? I haven't heard of that game.
Mr. Snuffles.
So China 2 or 3 years ago instituted this lockdown with video games where if you're a minor, you're only allowed to play for 1 hour a day, and then like 2 hours on like the weekend or something like that. And they've got that shit super duper locked down, so like you aren't supposed to be able to do it. However, a recent study has shown that like the amount of gaming hours total, because you can still look at the other side of it, has done nothing but go up over the last 2 years.
Shocker.
There was already some reports saying that like you started to get like a black market underground where like older siblings would like let younger siblings log onto their accounts, or people would rent out their accounts for other people to use or whatnot. And because you don't want to like spend all of your time, like you don't want to have to hire a whole government apparatus full of like spooks and like fucking SWAT guys to kick down the door if somebody goes to
stop playing a game.
Right.
Stop playing Star Citizen.
You played 90 minutes of Star Citizen. FBI, like like kick down your door to drag you off the computer. So, yeah, the study is titled "No Evidence That Chinese Playtime Mandates Reduced Heavy Gaming in One Segment of the Video Games Industry." Is by no means like a full big thing, but like, yeah, I always thought that this was a really stupid thing to do. But
yeah, but that doesn't work.
Hey,
Sorry.
I'm not China. I don't know anything about
That's true,
them.
but it's like clear that was never going to work from the get-go.
Yeah. And then before we get into trailers, last but certainly not least, Annapurna Games is opening up okay, let me back up. Annapurna has gotten into the animation business. Their first animated movie was that Nimona movie that was on Netflix. But because Annapurna has a games arm, they've decided to start trying to do some movie adaptations of the games that they own the rights to. And the first one that is already in motion is for Stray, which is the weird
cat
game where it's like a cat in a world full of robots. But that's probably for the best. I mean, if you're going to start with any game like the cat game.
You got to go to the simple route, and the audience is clearly going to be the same market as like Puss in Boots, or you know what I mean? Like
right.
There's still going to be very similar market shares there.
Yeah. Even though I don't actually know what happens in that game. It's like there was some kind of weird apocalypse that happened where it's only robots now, and they're all kind of like senile and don't remember anything. And you're just like this cat that gets like a weird backpack with a little drone that comes out of it and talks to you and opens doors and stuff. But then the cat is just like a cat. So
how interesting.
I don't know. Maybe they get A24 to do their
Oh, that sounds like very much like an A24 or Neon Studios.
But yeah, good news for fans of Stray. Let's see. From there, we do have some trailers to look at. Oh boy. Let me open up all these trailers. So we're going to start with the latest Street Fighter character, Aki, or I don't know if it's Aki or AKI, got a gameplay trailer. I believe this is like the second DLC character. I think Rashad was the first one. She's like a poison character that's all about various poisons, and she's very, very weird and creepy looking. She's got a lot of snake stuff going on. I was really impressed. Like, I don't think I talked a lot about Rashad. Rashad looked like a pretty normal character. When I look at this gameplay of her, she's a real weird character. She's got like a real long reach, and very like her animations are all very slinky.
Yeah,
like the point where it feels like it'd be hard to read what's coming
it's
at
like
you.
a Valdo or some kind of like there was a creepy one in Soul Calibur that was like wrapped in
that was Voldo, right?
Voldo, yeah.
I think so.
That reminds me of that type of movement.
Yeah, there's a part here where you can see her.
Whoa!
She's like on
the
her
ground.
back. She's going under attacks on her back, slithering backwards with like her head facing in the directions. Very like, oh, what the hell is that? And then there's a throw where she's fucking all all up on top of the other character, like, is a very striking kind of a very striking. She cuts a very striking fighting game silhouette, I guess is what she's saying.
It's very interesting.
Apparently, she has this alternate outfit where she's dressed in a little
like Harley Quinn.
Yeah, a little dress, like Lolita dress or something. I think I would find her ultimate where she hits does like the 5-finger
Death punch.
death thing.
Death
and the
touch.
Like, very striking character. Yeah. Also, I didn't put this on the list, but I know it came out before we started recording. We got some new Mortal Kombat stuff. Megan Fox is going to be in Mortal Kombat 1.
Why?
As Nitara, the vampire character who has been in other games. I didn't get a chance to look it up because I just pulled an Audible and put this in. This is another one where we have to interview Megan Fox. She's talk about how I got to really get in touch with my like dark
Mortal Kombat skills
side. It really, and parts of it made me feel weird. I'm like, I know she's just an actress, man.
Yeah.
Like, she's not some kind of fucking succubus ghoul, right? Like, she's wearing a pink fuzzy hat in this interview. She's wearing a pink sweater, man. But yeah, she's doing the Mortal Kombat kind of has a like Ronda Rousey did the voice of Cassie Cage, I think, in the last game.
So they have some sort of celebrity type tie-ins every once in a while.
Which, I don't have any problem with Megan Fox doing the voice.
It's fine. It's just very odd. It's just like a different, I don't know. It's just like I don't put Megan Fox and that together.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I get the impression that there's a bunch of Hollywood celebrities that made their money. They're just sitting around and you're just like, how much would it cost to get Megan Fox? And it's like, I don't know, like $400. Like call her. See if she'll come in for a few hours. $400 and a lunch. See if she'll do it for $400 and a lunch. And you're like, do you want to be in the new Mortal Kombat? Yeah. Okay. Well, best we can do is $400 and a lunch. And like, I ain't got nothing going on. Like Megan Fox is making like 1 billion movies every year, so I don't know. Maybe that sounded really condescending. I was saying like that sounded like great to me. I'd love to just sit around and then get a call from Ed Boon going, "Hey, do you want to be in Mortal Kombat?"
Hell yeah!
And I'd be like, "Sure." It'd be like $400 and a lunch, even better,
Let's do
better. I was gonna bring my own lunch, but hey, so yeah. Also, I can't wait for this game to come out. It's a strange character that I put in. They've had some weird ones kind of in the back half of this. I didn't get a chance to watch this one, so we're skipping it. Speaking of Hollywood, we got, I feel like there's just been a million trailers for this, but I'm so fascinated by it. Dead by Daylight got a content pack where they added in the alien, the xenomorph from Aliens, and Ripley.
Oh, yes. I've actually played this.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I do a lot of, I'll just randomly jump into Dead by Daylight and play a few things.
Yeah.
The alien is a bit creepy, but it's mainly just like it just kind of pissed me off because I just feel like it's much faster than the other monsters. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun little environment. I also played as Nicolas Cage. Which I thought was fun. So.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting here was the level. They were talking about how like it's like a weird psycho dreamscape. Mm-hmm. Like it's not supposed to be like a real place, which I guess explains why there's like weird gas engines you have to turn on and like outhouses to hide in and stuff.
So the turret area, you could turn on one of the turrets and kind of place it around. So like if the alien is in the area, it will get shot by that first. So you'll have like a few extra seconds to get away.
Okay. I don't know. I thought they did a really good job with this. Like
they did.
I kind of like their whole levels because they really get a chance to kind of flex. I feel like the original Dead by Daylight levels were all relatively kind of like, I don't know, it was outside in a farm, I guess, sort of thing. So, but yeah, I think it was pretty good. It's pretty good. Have you played the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game yet?
I have actually, yes.
What did you think about that one?
I thought that was fun. I thought it was some of the most intense like multiplayer experiences that I've had where I feel like I'm like actually running away from things, and I always like those types of games earlier on because I have no idea what to do, so it's that much more stressful.
Right.
So there was a lot of moments of like, oh, I don't know what to do, but we got to be really quiet, and like I was playing with like other people, and it was a lot of fun actually.
What do you think about the fact that it's like 4 survivors to 3 hunters? Is that they really like? I feel like the hunters have such an advantage because of how far you have to go. Like,
they do, and I feel like when we were playing, the nice thing was the hunters had no idea what to do yet.
Yeah.
So like we were actually able to escape, and it felt much more like, whew, that was really crazy. But yeah, as soon as the people figure it out, it's gonna go back to Dead by Daylight, and it's like this is just like if you're not playing the killer, you're just gonna get slaughtered. You know what I mean?
Well, my first round when Jason and I played it, and I got in. All I did was just crouch because I was one of the survivors. All I did was crouch and just like slowly walk in the direction of like the door. And then I got to the surface and I slowly just walked towards the edge of the map. And I found myself like standing in front of the gate, and I had watched the tutorial. So I just opened the gate and then I just left. And like, I never saw any of the other people. I didn't see any survivors or any of the hunters or anything. I just
got to leave.
walked away.
Like, this is a very this is not a massacre. This is more just like a walkout.
Yeah. This is the Texas Chainsaw Mosey. Slender the Arrival is coming back this October, which I think is very weird. So we got like an official gameplay trailer, which is just, you know, here's the Slender Man. He's coming at you. There's a bunch of Slendermans. They're standing there, and then, you know, when you're not looking, they're getting closer,
and then they're
and then they're there. I don't know. What are your feelings about Slender the Arrival? I feel like it was fine for the time, but I don't want it back.
Beyond the time of Slender Man at this point.
It's 10 years old at this point. It was 2013 when that originally came out. But yeah, it's coming out in October. They did a big remaster, made everything look better. I don't have any interest in playing Slender Man. As far as I'm concerned, Slender Man, the Slender the Arrival, Slender the 8 Pages, whatever, like really kicked off what was to me the least interesting part of horror video games, which was the runaway, and if you get caught, you die immediately with one shot. Like,
yeah, like nobody's really just wanting to play a runaway game, right? Like,
I think a lot of people do. I think Five Nights at Freddy's showed that a lot of people are into that insta-death bullshit. I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's way scarier if you have some way to fight the monster, but like it's not a good way to fight the monster, but there's some way to fight the monster, because I just get bored of running away. That's why when I played Amnesia, Amnesia kept saying like, don't look at the monster.
You're like, fuck that.
I was like, I'm gonna look at the monster. And then they were like, hide. And I was like, I'm going to run instead of hiding and then reload if I get caught. And so, yeah, I ruined that game for myself. Let's see. We also had there was a bunch of horror game trailers that came out. I thought this one was interesting. It's called The Dark World Karma. Appears to be like a first-person kind of exploration. Like, we don't see anything in the way of combat. Like, it seems mostly like a kind of narrative, walking around, exploration type of game. But it's got some interesting, weird visual shit going on in it.
Looks like a lot of weird visual shit.
Some kind of like TV stuff and like people with TV heads and it's like giant eyeballs and all kinds of weird stuff going on. I'm a big fan of weird stuff. I like weird stuff.
Works for me too.
So yeah, I don't know when this is coming out, but it's got a little bit of a Control feel to it. It's got some kind of, I don't know. Looks pretty cool. I tell you what, though, the one I'm really looking forward to is, because I've heard about this, is a game called Slay the Princess. And it's like this indie game that I've heard about where you're supposed to kill this princess. Like, it starts out, and they're like, you got to kill the princess. Like, I don't want to kill the princess. She's like, I don't want to die. And you're like, well, I don't want to kill the princess. And then apparently, like, very, very early on, she just, like, if you don't kill her, she takes away your knife and then, like, stabs you and doesn't manage to kill you and then, like, has to stab you a whole bunch of times and then manages to kill you. And then from there, it becomes the thing where it's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, you're like, turn it on its side.
And it's got this, like, kind of, like, the way the princess is kind of half animated with this, like, very sketchy pencil style it's very striking looking. And there's just a lot of real creepy, weird stuff. And then it's one of those games that has, like, a narrator that says what all is happening at the same time. And, like, I dig that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really dig it. Plus, it looks like one of those games where it's small but clever, which can a lot of times end up being some of the best games out there. and that's coming out on October 20th. At least it's coming to Steam, as well as GOG
And GOG.
a few other places. Whose primary method of buying video games is GOG? They put that logo on there, and I'm just like, great,
Gogging it out.
huzzah! Wait, what? No, this is not the right video. I don't know why I'm the Sabaro. Anyway, speaking of weird games, nope. I know you probably didn't get a chance to watch any of these trailers, but we got a trailer for the Isle Tide Hotel. This is coming out very shortly in September, end of September, I believe. This is from my boys at Wales Interactive, who are the people who still make FMV video games with like weird low-budget British actors in increasingly low-budget areas. This is about a guy at like you could be mistaken in watching this trailer if you're not listening to it like you are. If you imagined like a Kink song playing behind it, that this is a trailer for like a Wes Anderson.
Yeah, it does feel very Wes Anderson for sure.
It actually was a pretty decent trailer, except that they didn't mix the soundtrack up high enough, and so you could hear all of the dialogue very well, but it's just like a trailer needs to have the background music. You really have to get it up. You can't just be like way back in the background, right?
You got to give us a little bit of taste.
So, yeah. It's coming out September 23rd. I can't wait to play this. I love playing Wales Interactive games. They're all hellacious shit shows. I've never finished one, but they're all fun and silly.
Nice.
So, let's see. We got a trailer for Eternites, which is the first one I've seen in a long time, which is some kind of JRPG where you have like a big glowing arm, but then it's also like a big dating simulator, and there's literally a button where you hold hands with the
There's
waifus.
the J of the JRPG.
With your big glowing anime arm. And so this one was basically, I don't know, this one was, I think, supposed to show off a lot of the waifus that you're going to hold hands with, but at the same time, it showed off some of the game, and I haven't seen that much of this game. It looks kind of Persona-y.
Yeah, it looks very Persona-ish.
Yeah. And this is coming out like in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And I remember seeing stuff for it a while back, but yeah, September 12th. So wait, not 2 weeks, like 2 days from when this goes up. I mentioned before about Final Fantasy 16 having some free stuff. We got a trailer for that. There's some new skins for Clive and Jill and some of the other characters. And there are also some weapon skins that you get for some of the different weapons that you can do. So they're just kind of adding some customization. I mean, as near as I could tell from everything I read about this, that's like one skin. There's one skin, one alternate skin, which, considering that until this update came out, there were no skins. And your guy just wore the exact same thing for the entire back 2/3 of the game.
Yeah.
So, but hey, free content is free content, so can't argue that much with that. We got some release dates from Devolver Digital. So first, we got a release date trailer for Wizard with a Gun, which I don't know if you have. I don't know how much you keep up with the indie game scene, but it's kind of a procedurally generated roguelike multiplayer where you play as like wizards that then imbue like kind of Wild West guns with different spells and stuff. It reminds me a lot of Cult of the Lamb or Don't Starve because it's got this kind of isometric thing. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. I think a lot of games have started using this weird isometric thing. I don't think I ever liked that like grid on its side. Like I prefer just a grid as opposed to the like tilted grid. It just makes everything feel, you keep seeing the edge of everything. Yeah. But we did get a release date of October 17th for that. So we'll definitely get to see that. Let's see. Additionally, the one I'm way more excited about is Gunbrella, which is being made by the team that made this game called Gato Roboto. Let me just make sure. This is coming September 13th. It's like a 2D side scroller where you play as a guy that has basically a gun that also turns into an umbrella. This was the first time I've seen this much of the game where it seems like there's a lot more like weird monstery,
monsters and stuff that you have to like blow apart.
Yeah, like tentacles and like weird rotten
Devilish.
T-Rexes, like things full of eyeballs. Yeah, I really liked I liked Gato Roboto quite a bit. But this looks like it's on a whole different level, and I definitely can't wait to play it in like, this week sometime, or I guess as this is coming out, it'll be out in 3 or 4 days. So
Nice.
yep. Let's see. And then we also got the full launch trailer. This is a little old, but for the Dimension Shell Shock DLC for Shredder's Revenge. This is the one that added in the kind of roguelike challenge mode, as well as the different 2 DLC characters and different like skins. I love the fact that they added in a bunch of skins that make it look like the old NES game, where they're just like real kind of low resolution. This is a hell of a game. This was
fun. I've played this game.
A great game. Yeah, so there's now the new survival mode where you go through kind of different, looks like mini levels, and then you get to do the roguelike thing where you pick a specific power up and then go to the next one, et cetera, et cetera. So, yep. Good stuff. Let's see. This was probably, though, the most exciting thing that happened all week. Blake, I don't think you've been around to have to listen to me talk about the case of the Golden Idol, but all of that changes right now because they put out a second DLC called the Lemurian Vampire for Case of the Golden Idol. It was like a stealth release out today. It had 3 new mysteries. Amanda and I played through the first 2 of them, one for Patreon and one for the dojo, which will be out by the time you hear this. They were great. They tied into the previous one, which was the Spider of Lanka, that are both prequels to the Case of the Golden Idol. Case of the Golden Idol is my favorite mystery game of all time.
Nice.
They also put out a browser-based demo, which doesn't seem to work in my browser, but yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm going to say it again because it rules. Case of Golden Idol is like this thing where you get to a scene. There's like you'll be put in like a scene where like 1 second of time is looping back and forth, and then you can kind of go through people's pockets and look at what they have in their like on them, and you can kind of zoom into places. And as you do that, you will collect a series of names and verbs and adjectives and things, and then in order to solve the case, you have to open up this like kind of investigation screen, and you have to fill in
It's like
kind of a Mad Lib. Yeah. But it's not just that, because sometimes you have to identify people. Sometimes you have to fill in a Mad Lib. Sometimes they'll ask you to fill out a thing that describes like a system that you've been doing. And then the great thing about it is that for the base game, for a Case of Golden Idol, every mystery leads into the next thing, and the whole thing tells a chronological story about this Golden Idol. And then they put out 2 DLCs that tell about the lead up to the full game. And it's great. It's incredibly well written. It's got a weirdly off-putting art style. Like the art style is weird.
It's very off-putting.
But it's one of the best games I've ever played. I love it so much. Yeah. And the DLCs are like $6 a piece. I think they're totally worth it. So
Nice.
Let's see. We also got some updates to another game that I like in spite of everything. Power Wash Simulator got the Muckingham Files 2 update, which added, I believe, like a paintball arena and like a villa, and I think there's might be like was there like a car or something? Oh yeah, there's like a excavator. Which is great because Power Wash Simulator is the best.
It's all about discovering environments while you're cleaning them up.
Yep. Yeah, Yeah, it's the best, like, I'm going to play this game while I do something else game in the world. But more exciting than that, they announced that coming soon, they're going to have a Back to the Future pack that is going to have the DeLorean and the train and the Hill Valley Clock Tower and the
Pine Tree Mall.
I think it's going to have Doc's van and then the movie theater from 2, the Jaws movie theater. So I don't know how these guys keep getting the rights to do all this stuff, because so far they put out a Lara Croft DLC, a Final Fantasy VII DLC, a SpongeBob SquarePants DLC. There's this, and then there's also a Warhammer 40K DLC that's coming out.
Damn.
And I'm just like, shit, everybody loves Power Wash Simulator, man.
Loving and washing it out.
Yep. So, all right, and now we can finish up. We got a couple of quick things, and then we'll be done. Hey, if you see the news on the internet of a new 007 game, do not be confused like I was, because my boys at IO Interactive, the makers of Hitman, are currently working on a 007 game. It is not this. This is an Apple Arcade video game. This is some bullshit. This is a McAfee ad that somehow Game Informer has on their page. This is like...
this goes like a top-down 007, like XCOM fighter.
It's like an action stealth type of thing. Actually, it was funny because I was saying all these things, and then I remembered that when I was looking at the trailer for this, I was like, I don't know, this doesn't look bad, but it's like an Apple Arcade exclusive. So
that sucks.
One, I don't want to play it on my phone, but then 2, I could play it on my Apple Arcade. So I might do that. But then apparently this whole thing is like a dream. It's like Blofeld is trapped Bond in a mind fucking palace, and you've got to relive all your old adventures in order to get out of it.
Interesting.
Okay. The Mind Trap. So, okay. And that's coming out September 29th. So, Alone in the Dark is no longer coming out in 2023 at all. It was supposed to be coming out in October of 2023. I believe that this is an excellent move for them, because October of this year is full of a lot of high-quality, high-profile games. This game does not appear to be
either.
like, this game is a game that would do well to come out when there's not a lot else coming out, in order to kind of just be like, huh, you know what?
Look at the shine on this patina.
Okay, kind of interesting, as opposed to just like, what? You know, get that shit out of my face. Get that shit out of my face. Call of Duty just came out. Like, what are you fucking talking about? This? So, also Spider-Man 2 is coming out that month. So they moved it to January of 2024. So, boom. Yeah, going back to Ninja Turtles, the Mutant Mayhem movie is getting a sequel in the form of a game, apparently.
Oh, nice.
Now, the company that's making it, it's so weird. The company that's making it is called Outright Games, and they have made a whole shitload of, like, if you go to their website, all it is like
IP.
Yeah, like Star Trek Prodigy and the JoJo Siwa game and the Paw Patrol Grand Prix
Peppa
and
the Pig.
Peppa Pig Complete Edition. However, I looked at it and I was like, no, fuck. But I played Justice League Cosmic Chaos, and it was fun. And I made Matt play Gigantosaurus Dino Kart, and even though it was a little too easy because you could win it, but it's obviously for babies, that one was all right, too.
For babies.
And so I guess the thing is that, like, I think I would rather, if they were going to make a Ninja Turtles game, let
somebody else like that do that.
The guys that did that really good beat 'em up make it. But this is not the worst company. I have played some of their games, and they are not the worst company of all time. So
nice.
I'm skipping this. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. Some motherfucker's trying to port Portal to the N64, and he's almost there. Like, he's managed to make it work, which is weird.
Wow.
More interesting than that is this. This is such a weird story. So, you know the original Pokemon art that was
I
always
do
like,
remember of the comic books.
Yeah, watercolor.
Yeah.
So somebody online, actually, let me just make sure that I get everybody attributed correctly. No, it's not even that. It's this studio called Yanako RPGs. Okay, anyway, let's get my thoughts here together. The studio Yanako RPGs, they made this tool called Monmo, which is a creative tool that can be used to create catching monster games. Like, it's specifically built to let you put together a catching monster like Pokemon game. So then they have gone and they're currently developing a game called Dokimon, which I think is really ballsy of them to do, which is like, you know, it's an electric rat, but he's in a wheelchair and he's got a mohawk. It's like the serial numbers filed off of Pokemon.
Completely filed off.
Right, completely different. But one of the people that worked for this, what the fuck? Get out of here. They talked about they want to do a 3D Pokemon, but they basically built this engine that looks an awful lot like the watercolor illustrations of the original Pokemon cards, but like in a 3D format, and man, it looks really good. Now they want to kind of start by finishing Dokimon
yeah.
before moving on to this, but I really do think that this shows how that game company, or not the Game Freak, could really use some new blood when it comes to figuring out what to do with Pokemon, because like this looks really good. Like, this looks like a game that I would really be interested in playing, as opposed to kind of the half-assed stuff that they've been putting out recently. So, also they did a really good job of just making these characters look like they're kind of illustrations. So, yeah. Let's see. Speaking of RPGs, Baldur's Gate 3 and modding. Baldur's Gate 3 has got a lot of modders. Apparently, there's a new mod that you can throw on to add artificers to the game, which is kind of a weird tech magician class from D&D that people have like completely modded into the game. And not just that, but we've also seen there's a mod for Baldur's Gate 3 that adds 54 new races.
Oh, nice.
To the game. Now, this is you see that headline, and like they do have like kobolds, like they took the kobold model and mapped it on the halfling. But then a lot of these things are like sky elves, and like they're sub races in D&D that like look like people but just have slightly different,
they're just like
different types of things. Or they'll be like, okay, so this is like your sub elf category, and they added 14 different sub elves to the thing. So, you know, like, that's cool. I'm glad they're doing that. It's not exactly like they went through
revolutionary or anything.
Yeah. The difference between like a dragonborn and a halfling, it's not that. It's like slightly different coloring and slightly different stats and boosts. But, you know, I'm sure there's somebody out there whose favorite.
They want to immerse themselves like that.
Yeah. My character when we played D&D was a furbolg. That is
a furbolg.
So, yeah, cool to see. But I'm more into Armored Core. It's interesting. This is apparently the current PvP meta in Armored Core that a lot of people are doing is just immediately throwing down all of their weapons and then just having a big punching slug fight. And apparently this has happened enough that some people on Twitter have found some footage of it and then put it over the Metal Gear Revengeance music, the butt rock from Metal Gear Revengeance, and it matches up really well.
Nice.
I think it's funny though at the beginning because like you can get this upgraded Armored Core that allows you to just shed weapons, and so it's like you go to a PvP match and then just throw down all of your giant guns, and the other person
Gloves
throws
comes
down all
out,
theirs, and just fucking yeah, man, you're gonna punch, which is pretty cool. Also, okay, so one of the first things that happens whenever there's a new game that you can mod is people mod CJ from San Andreas into it. People have done that with Armored Core. It's pretty horrifying. You got a giant CJ with like the rockets and stuff. But somebody else has done the Lord's work of taking one of the tank bases and then changing it into Thomas the Tank Engine. And so now we have CJ writing Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh man!
And if that doesn't make you want to play a From Software game, I don't know what would. It's pretty horrifying. It's pretty horrifying.
That is horrifying.
And then last but not least, if you are into Armored Core, one of the most interesting things that's happened, I've followed the Armored Core subreddit, so I already knew about this, is that Armored Core is a game that has a lot of characters, but you don't ever see any of them. So you've got the handler and your hound character and all these other people. You hear them all coming over the radio, but you never see any of them. And so, as the internet is wont to do, they have gone and basically created anime-looking versions of all of these different
voices.
characters. Yes, to put a face to the characters.
voices.
Yeah, to the voices. So. And it's pretty cool. Like there's a lot of shit on the internet that I don't like, but one of the things that I do like is that there is a lot of really high quality artistic talent just floating around on the internet.
Yeah, willing to contribute.
Yeah. So, and that is the show. Weird week. But I don't know. We got through it. We got all the news. Let everybody know. Blake, why don't you tell them where they can find you when you're not over here helping me to do the news?
Hey, if you want to go to the patreon.com/junkfoodcinema, you can subscribe there and join our Discord as well. And when you're done doing that, you're going to go back to patreon.com/RageSelect.
I guess.
And check out all the content that's coming out.
If you want.
You gots to.
I don't know. I'm such a, I know that the normal human psychology is if you tell people to go do stuff, you're like, subscribe. And they're like, I guess I should.
Oh, shit. I don't
but
wanna
if you
get
tell
trouble.
me, you're like, Jeff, like and subscribe. And I'm like, I will never. I will delete my account and block it forever. Do not tell me
For
what
the
to
people
do.
that bounced off of me, then don't fucking go to patreon.com/RageSelect. You will regret it. You're going to regret it.
All right. Now I'm gonna go eat Taco Bell because
No,
if
we're gonna
everything's
get some
everything is gonna taste like salt already, then I'm gonna go get me one of those stupid dipping chalupas or whatever.
Hold the salt I have enough.